lounging, son.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Short Box. I'm your host, Mario. You got Ryan over here. So this week we're talking about in the last couple of weeks a certain writer, certain creative team that we really like. And we wanted to start off some of the earlier stuff that he'd done, some of the other books we really like about him. So this week we're talking about Criminal #1.
Look at that. And for all of you guys that are looking at this cover and wondering, what the fuck is that logo in the top left corner? That's the Icon logo.
Yeah.
From when Marvel was putting out some creator-owned stuff. They also had powers.
Yeah, they were trying to do like a Vertigo
From
type
Bendis.
thing, which really was just an excuse to please some of their, really just Bendis more than anybody else.
Yeah, Bendis. And then I think Brubaker and Bendis were the only ones that really did stuff besides Jason Aaron did Men of Wrath. And yeah, I was kind of, I'll be honest with you, like, I love Brubaker and Phillips, but when I found this in my collection, I was kind of shocked that I had it. And it's in pretty fucking good condition still. Not that it's like worth a ton of money, but to me, it's more sentimental value. I didn't continue on with this series for whatever reason. This was post high school for me, so like I kind of like jumped in and out of comics. But look at that cover, dude. Like, this is the beginning, and it's 2006. This is the beginning of
But I like that.
what, from the writer of Daredevil and the artist of Marvel Zombies.
with Robert Kirkman.
I know, it's crazy, dude. It's crazy that
Well,
that's
because before this, they had worked together, but it was Sleeper.
right.
And that was in the Wildstorm continuity, kind of. And it was just kind of its own thing that I don't know that like average person would know what's going on. So they're trying to market it to a bigger group of people, like a new audience.
yeah.
Which is why you see this.
I know. I hate that that's
Which is
there.
so funny.
I know it's so out of place. You know what I mean? Like Marvel Zombies. Like it has nothing to do with zombies. You know, whatever. But let's fucking talk about this comic, dude. I reread it just this morning before we recorded, just to kind of refresh my memory. And there's moments in this book that tie into the last volume that just ended.
I actually started rereading Criminal. I have the deluxe hardcover because of the same reason. Because I started thinking about just their stuff, and I started rereading, and that's the exact same thought I had. It was just like, holy shit, this ties into things that came out in the last couple of years.
Like 13 years later.
Yeah.
That's fucking insane. And when he wrote this, it's probably pre-2006. Maybe, because this is October 2006 when it was says it was published, which means it was really published in August.
Yeah.
Because this is always about 2 months later.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because like they don't know when it's going to actually
and that
drop.
means it was probably written either early 2006 or late 2005.
Yeah, so it's fucking nuts, dude. It's really crazy to think about. First of all, let's talk about the design of this.
I love it. Look at this.
It's amazing. It's amazing. I love the lettering here of the title. Ed Brubaker, Sean Phillips. Colors by Val Staples.
Yeah.
So, not a colorist that I even really thought about when I associated with this
Right.
team. I forgot that Val Staples colored this book, to be honest with you.
They've had a couple of colorist.
Yeah, Elizabeth
This
Breitweiser.
was one of the main ones for a long time.
Right, and now Jacob Phillips, Sean's son. But I love this book, dude. This is the first time we're
It's also kind of crazy because you look at the art. Because a lot of other
It's
artists,
different.
you see their change.
Yeah. You
But-
see it with Sean, though. I saw it. I saw it more in this.
I think here he was trying to do a little more realistic.
I think also he doesn't ink his stuff anymore. He does it digitally, too. It's a
Yeah.
little bit different. The style of how he inks is not the same.
Yeah. But you see there's more detail in the faces.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
more detail in the
Way more detail.
He was trying to go for more of a realistic style back then.
Yeah.
That he kind of, now it's a little bit simpler.
It's a little looser. Yeah, for sure. But, this is Leo. First time we're meeting Leo.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, this is the first Criminal comic. Now, Scene of the Crime, you could say, is somewhat similar to Criminal, but it's not.
It's like
not
a prototype.
right.
Of
It's
Criminal.
right. It literally is the book that set this off and set this in motion.
Yeah.
The coloring, you can definitely tell, is a way different palette than what I'm used to seeing in Criminal. I haven't read this since I got the first trade, so
Yeah.
it's been a long time. And to see the differences between how their stuff is colored now and then, it's definitely one of the more interesting things. I love Sean's lettering. He's just as good of a letterer, and I don't know if he hand letters or he does it digitally.
Maybe he did it back then.
But he does a great job. Even you can see that he's drawing the boxes Those aren't perfect lines.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They look etched almost. A quick recap. Criminal.
It's called Coward. So this is about how he leaves when things go bad.
Right.
Which, in one hand, it's like, well, no, get fucking survive. But on the other hand, is you're a coward.
Right. Like I said, it ties into the volume that just ended. Criminal is a series that will jump all over the place, but the characters are all connected, and it'll jump back and forth in time. Not just between characters, but back in time. So the one that just ended saw Leo as a young boy.
Yeah.
So I think it's, and I forgot like that this specific issue, not even just this volume, but it talks about the stuff that, like we said, just ended.
We start talking about his dad and some of the stuff, the stakeouts they were on, and some of the things they used to tell him when he was a kid. And then you flash forward to some of the different books that we've gotten. Yeah. This is a one-shot, too, where he's traveling with his dad and some other stuff. Right. And all of that stuff is like, holy shit, this is what he was talking about here. Literally in the first, 4 pages, he's referencing conversations he had with his dad that we see 14, 13, 12 years later. Yeah. This I had to say, this coloring was just, I don't know why. Maybe I'm just nitpicking. But the yellow fucking hat, bright yellow hat. And maybe, now that as I'm looking at it, maybe that was to throw people off, because why would somebody that's trying to get away make so much noise? I think that was the idea. Visually, that's why he had the check mark stuff too. Yeah. Like he's just trying to be so fucking flagrantly in your face. This is just some random fucking cycling guy. Exactly. Who the fuck cares? So he gets away. All the other guys die. 5 years later, you got 2 cops. Yeah, and then one of them is like. But they're crooked. They're not straight-laced at all by any means, and they're trying to... They're catching him on a stakeout. Yeah, he's casing the place. Yeah. But he's really good, and he's like, I don't believe you, and look, he already fucking made you. So he's already out the door. And they catch up with him, and he knows exactly who they are. Right, and the whole point of them stopping him is not to arrest him, but they want to bring him in on a job. And they play to it, and they basically call him out, and this is where they call him a fucking coward, and he says no, he doesn't want to do it, but they're basically not taking no for an answer, and they're going to get him on their side one way or another. Yeah, which is it's interesting too that this has set the tone for Criminal. It is really nuts, dude. It's really cool to look back on this, just the subtlety of how he's casing just regular fucking people, so he can fucking steal from them. And look at that. But just if you think about Parker, which is a book we talked about too, right? You can see the influences from. Oh yeah, easily, dude, easily. Because that's also similar, where it's same characters, but they're not necessarily there's not necessarily canon. Mm-hmm. Where you have to worry about how each issue leads to each other. They're all just set in the same world. So yeah, you can see some of the facial. There's a lot more detail back then he put in there. I've always been impressed by his backgrounds. I agree. Yeah, gorgeous. He doesn't gloss over that by any means. And I love the inner monologue of Leo. That's one of the things I love about Brubaker's writing. Yeah. And I mentioned it on a podcast with Dylan with Deadly Class. Remender's inner monologue. That's somebody that I think is really good. But his inner monologue for his characters is so fucking good, dude. And it's crazy, you go back to Scene of the Crime, which was one of his first major published works, and he was good then. And he just continues to get better. Yeah. This jumps forward, I would say, about 6 years, right? In between that book was probably 2000. Yeah. It's cool to see his writing kind of grow as we see Sean Phillips' art grow as well. Yeah. And then they kind of get a better color palette once they start getting it steady. Because Elizabeth Breitweiser was on their stuff for a long time. Mm-hmm. So that means that they had a team where the dynamic was kind of fixed and they grew up together. Yeah. And it kind of we glossed over this. He kind of talks about how his dad went to jail for killing Teague Lawless, who is a major character in the Criminal universe. We'll see the Lawless. Right. And we see that play out in the last volume of Criminal. But who he's visiting here is not his dad. It's Ivan, who was also in that last arc and is a junkie. And you even see it here. He's trying to hit on the fucking lady, the nurse, and she's like, "You need to get a fucking male nurse for this guy. I can't. He needs to be at home with a male. You know what I mean? Not with me." And he's fucking shooting up, and they even show that on the fucking counter right here, or on the nightstand, the needle and the fucking just seeing that coming from my personal past and seeing that stuff. I'm like, oh my god. I wouldn't say that it triggers me.
But like it reminds me of being in like that dark place, and like yeah, he's an old man, but like he's still like he's in such a like this stew of like darkness, like old cigarette butts, and like just like laying the scene. If you look at nothing else but that image, it lays the scene of who this guy is. You don't even need to hear any of this dialogue.
Yeah.
Me seeing this image, I can tell you what this dude's about from my own personal experience and living that kind of a life, you know. And as it goes on, dude, and then he's talking about his dad again, and he's talking about his past, and this fucking girl comes.
Well, that's one of the themes with the series. It's about legacy and how family shit impacts. That's what I think a lot of criminal stuff. It's a lot of families, how they relate to each other, and how their actions in the past affect the future.
And I think that it comes from Brubaker's personal experiences too, because he talks about like I've talked to him, face to face, that he used to go to like NA and AA meetings as a kid with his mom.
Yeah. And
so he heard stories.
Yeah.
So like you can definitely like see that, like, because it doesn't feel like, it feels authentic these stories that he's writing about, these characters and these junkies and these alcoholics and all these.
Well, these gritty crime guys, but they're not just badass dudes for the sake of badass.
No.
They're weak and they're scared and they're cowards sometimes, but they're bad guys too, and they shoot people and do all this crazy shit. Yeah. They're really fleshed out criminals.
Yeah.
Hence the title.
Yeah, it's fucking awesome, dude. And I love this part here too. Like, she's basically, those cops have asked her to come find him because she said she could. She's a fucking recovered junkie, but he calls her out and he's like, "You're just a fucking junkie, dude. I don't deal with junkies." He is now convinced. He finally gets convinced by her to fucking do what they're asking and do the job. And then the rest of the issue, I won't get too far into it.
That's cool.
I know. I liked this old. So I was trying to see if that was a P. Like if he was trying to say it was like by Jacob Phillips or something, like his kid. But I think that might be an R. But anyways, so the rest.
He also would have been really young.
Yeah.
He's
well, no, not the art, but like just like that he was trying to say by his son, like as a call out.
Kid.
Yeah. So the rest of the issue, like he's basically getting his crew together.
Yeah, he's getting ready. The typical kind of heist. Let's get the crew back together.
Yeah. So I love it. I like those kind of things of like.
It's the dialogue that always stands out about these criminal books and Brubaker's writing.
Mm-hmm. And I really loved this guy, the dude that fucking pretends to have a fucking seizure to get money to go to pay for the fucking hospital, and it's a con that he continues to do. Yeah. And I like that we get to see this whole con play out before he's like, "Hey, what's up, dude? like you want me to give you a ride? You want me to give you a ride to the fucking hospital or what?" And then he's like, "Let's do a job." You know, and this particular like just scene, I laughed out loud when I was fucking reading it, dude. This is the get. Right at the end, as we close out the issue, we see that the cop is doing the job, but it's not his job.
Yeah.
He's doing it basically for somebody else.
Yeah.
And it's a diamond heist. They're going to steal diamonds. And we're left with this scene of the dude that he's working for, and he's torturing this fucking guy. And that's where it ends. And that's a great first issue to me.
Yeah.
That's a fantastic first issue.
Yeah, well, you set up the main character. You set up his world, and more than just, oh, he's a gritty guy that does some crazy shit.
Yeah.
No, Ivan is the only thing left from his old family.
Mm-hmm.
You hear a lot about his dad. You see that he's got a lot of trauma from his dad. You hear a lot about some of the things that Ivan used to tell him with his dad. And you start seeing this kind of person. In fact, he doesn't deal with junkies. This is like a thing going on. You're seeing. So it's a really good way. Like the setup in this issue is fucking fantastic.
Yeah, I mean. You get so much in this issue, and just such a small sample, and like you feel like I almost feel like I got a trade's worth of information to a certain extent. Like I feel like I got you get your goddamn money's worth with this comic. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't feel that way about some stuff that I read nowadays. I don't feel like I get my money's worth at all. I feel like I get that and more. And as they're known for, we get a little bit of back matter. And I forgot that it started from the beginning, dude. Yeah. You already have his recommended. Look, he's plugging The Walking Dead.
It gets bigger as they go along. Like it's nowadays it's like fucking 5 pages.
Yeah, I mean you have letters.
A 3-page essay,
right,
with original Sean Phillips art or Jacob Phillips art now, and then you get recommendations. You get a whole newsletter in the back.
Yeah, and here, right here, he's telling you what to expect, and you know it's more than it was. It's more than your regular page count. It was 26 pages, 2-page backup at the end. He's got his recommendations, which he's known for. Walking Dead, he plugs. Powers, he plugs. You know, there's some other stuff in there. Casanova by Matt Fraction, Gabrielle Ba. We won't talk about the Fell book by Warren Ellis and Ben Templesmith. Then he talks about, how they came together from Sleeper and how that led to this and that they had been planning this for quite some time. And he has to keep up with Sean Phillips because Sean is so fucking quick, And there we go. We got another.
Yep.
Well, this is what we were talking about. The essays. This is a little short story that's in the back, and then look, it's funny to see these ads, dude. Like this is just a printing service for independent comics, and then Walking Dead. If you look, this is the beginning of Walking Dead.
This is around the time I started reading The Walking Dead.
Yeah, and it's just crazy, dude. And then you got your fucking. I even look at the back cover, dude. Is great. The composition is amazing.
Look who you got writing.
David S. Goyer, Charlie Huston, and Kurt Busiek.
Yeah, well, Kurt Busiek is a comic book writer, but this is people not in the comic industry.
No, he's that fucking.
And that
good.
continues on because they. I think there's a story that Brubaker tells about how in Dark Knight they use the stuff from Gotham Central, and Goyer actually sent him a check. He didn't have to. He just did it out of respect.
That's fucking awesome. But it was fun going through this one. I think everybody, if they don't know yet, they have to know now that we love Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips. It was awesome to be able to jump back and look at this awesome issue and see kind of where Criminal started, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you haven't read Criminal, there's 7 volumes out right now. They got a couple hardcovers in the works that reprint all of it as well and then a couple one-offs. But yeah, definitely check it out. And make sure you give us a follow on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at The Comic Lounge. Drop your comments or suggestions down below. You can also email us at thecomicloungepod@gmail.com. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so that you're notified every time we put up a new video. Also, make sure you check out the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, anything you listen to podcasts on, it's on there. We also have the audio version on the YouTube channel. On that note,
we're out.